Welcome everyone to this discussion on public sector's communication conundrum and how to support staff deliver effective services and improve lives whilst overcoming technology silos. I'm Mark Blanchard, I'm the Public Sector Director for GovNews Direct, and today I'm going to be speaking with James Gilbert. James is the Assistant Director for Corporate at the South and East Lincolnshire Council's partnership, an award-winning partnership between Boston Borough Council, East Lindsey District Council and South Holland District Council. Working together with a shared management team, the partnership is seeking to maximise opportunities for the communities that the council serves. All three councils remain sovereign in their own right, but with a one-team ethos across the partnership. James's responsibilities are within the partnership and for the three councils include corporate policy, corporate improvement and transformation, performance, programme management, organisational development, compliance, communications and structural reform. James is also the client lead for the contract that the council has with the public sector partnership services, a company jointly owned by the three councils, and PSPS provides customer services, finance, health and safety, HR, ICT, and Revs and Bens services on the council's behalf. So, James, great to have you with us today.
Yeah, thank you much for the invitation.
So, this year, GovNews Direct partnered with RingCentral to survey the public sector and analyse their rapid adoption of innovations in areas like cloud communications. Over 500 participants completed the survey, more than half of which were at C-suite director and senior management level, and 28% of all the respondents represented local government organisations. So these series of talks are to examine some of their insight, opinions and real-world experiences that have come out of the research. So where I'd like to start, James, is 97% of survey responders utilise Microsoft 365 for their primary business software. How has the adoption of Microsoft 365 specifically impacted communication processes within local government? And what are the key areas do you think that are required for further improvement?
Yes, I mean, as part of your introduction, you explained the landscape across our partnership, and we're really fortunate to be supported by PSPS. So all three councils get their IT services from PSPS. At the start of COVID, we very quickly deployed 365 into both East Lindsey and South Holland councils. Boston weren't part of the partnership at that point in time. So East Lindsey and South Holland have the 365 suite. Boston still has on-premise. So they're on a journey to move into the cloud at this point in time. But I think what it did for us, it massively gave us the ability to do things quicker than it had done previously. So I think one of the things it really enabled was a step change in pace in the three organisations with the introduction of 365, particularly with the ability of things like VC that we didn't have prior to that, the instant messaging, which gave us a more informal mechanism to communicate with colleagues across the partnership. But also just be a bit more agile in the way that we do stuff. So whilst COVID was horrendous for the world, and we're still seeing the kind of remnants of it now within our communities and the impact of it, as an organisation, as a partnership, it really did enable us to accelerate some of our transformation in the technology space, and 365 was a really important part of that. I think there is a bit of a double-edged sword, really, because there's the positives and then there's the challenges. So there's some technological challenges which we see as a partnership around the ability to collaborate across tenancy within 365. And I think we would really like to see a focus from Microsoft in enabling greater collaboration in that space and the ability for tenancies to talk to one another a bit more. And I think we are starting to see some progress in that space and some of the stuff that's out in beta at the moment from Microsoft. But also the other challenge is the cultural one, and that's around the ease of dropping stuff into diaries. You do find you come into work now and your diary is blocked out for meetings 8 till 5 or whatever each day, when previously you might have had some windows in there because just the logistics of getting people together has been made far easier. So kind of we're grappling with that cultural challenge a little bit at the moment by saying, please don't be filling people's diaries all day, every day. Be a bit respectful. They need some time to actually do some work rather than just talk.
Spend all day on Teams, yeah. So almost a quarter of all respondents mentioned that they'd yet to migrate any of their telephony to the cloud, despite being heavily reliant on the phone to communicate with employees, citizens, and stakeholders. So, in the context of local government, what specific challenges do organisations encounter when migrating telephony to the cloud, and perhaps, integrating that into primary business applications like Microsoft?
So our telephony solution across the partnership is RingCentral. So we have RingCentral in PSPS. We also have it in South Holland, and we also have it in East Lindsey. Shortly, it's going to be deployed into Boston as well. So by the end of Q2 this year, we'll have that platform, that core telephony platform, in place across the three councils and the company. There have been some challenges for us in regard to things like porting DDIs. So that's been one of the really big challenges that IT have flagged to me in terms of implementation of the product. And it was just really important we kind of got that right. It dovetailed with the project plan, and we made sure our suppliers, previous suppliers, had the ability to port the numbers to meet the timescales that we needed. One of the other changes that we saw internally was the shift from kind of that hard telephone on a desk to soft phones, and the ability for people to be able to pick up calls into their DDI when they're out and about. So it's given us a lot more flexibility in terms of the way in which we kind of handle incoming traffic. And on the back of that, it should have improved the customer experience, really, because actually if you're a caller dialing into our main call centre, the officer doesn't have to be in the office to answer the calls as once the case. So we've seen quite a shift in that space. What I would say as well is we closed all our customer access points in East Lindsey after COVID. So they were shut for a period of 2.5 years because of COVID. We then didn't reopen them, but we have seen obviously a significant shift to telephony, and we've got that journey to then shift people onto digital as well. And I think just in terms of the way in which we're embracing kind of this kind of technology across our partnership and more broadly in the sector now, it just seems to give us a lot more flexibility than we had previously. So certainly for us as well, having that one platform across the four entities, the three council and companies, just been a bit of a game changer.
Yeah, definitely that flexibility that came up in the survey as a key driving force and one of the primary drivers for the whole change and transformation in their migration.
Yeah, and being able to integrate RingCentral with Teams now has been really important for us. Yeah. So we've got kind of that one platform, whilst accepting Outlook still isn't in that space. Whether it will be longer term, whether Outlook will be integrated into Teams eventually, I guess we don't know at this point. But it seems to me that Microsoft are moving in the direction of trying to create Teams almost that one-stop shop for all your communication. And by having the ability for RingCentral now to be integrated into that, again, from an employee perspective in terms of using that type of technology, it's just great that it can all sit in one place. Mm.
So obviously you mentioned the transformation that went on from that period of COVID, and I suppose what we've noticed in a lot of our work is that local authorities in particular have been really mature at adopting smarter working principles and practices. And our survey identified that a number of the challenges when it came to replicating, I suppose, the internal communication success that has been driven from smarter working is, I suppose, difficult to then achieve that success externally with customers. How are local authorities proactively addressing the disparities in communication effectiveness, and how can, I suppose, overcoming those technology silos help bridge these communication gaps?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I must be clear on is that 365 hasn't been the panacea in terms of addressing internal communications issues for us. So if we take our workforce, almost 1,000, 70% of those workforce are people collecting the bins, they're people sweeping the streets, they're people tending the flower beds across the district and looking after our parks and gardens. So we've got a large cohort of our organisation who don't have access to 365 in their day-to-day role. They have different technological workflows that provide their tasks for the day. So from an internal communications perspective, for office-based staff, it's made a real impact, but it probably hasn't for the organisation as a whole, particularly in terms of communication to those people I just described. In terms of the way we communicate with customers, I guess our demographic, we've got quite an older population. The political view around how we should be communicating and engaging with those residents is one that, and quite rightly, I think, that actually whilst technology has a place, some of those traditional methods are still really, really important to us. And whilst I mentioned we've closed customer access points, we have increased capacity in our call centre and done lots of other things to try and enable residents to communicate with us. We have teams that are out there kind of day to day still talking to the community face to face on issues that are really important to them. So I don't think there's kind of a one-size-fits-all approach. If I look at our communication strategy, for example, as an organisation, we've got digital, we've got the local newspapers we communicate with residents each week, we've got social. It's kind of that there's a real breadth of communications channels out there that we are using to engage with our audiences externally, and I don't think that's going to change. No. We still engage at town and parish council meetings, etc., etc. So for the foreseeable future, whilst we're trying to push people in the technological direction, because ultimately it will address some of the pressures that we have in our services, if people can self-serve, I think for quite a period of time there will still be kind of that mixed bag of communications channels out there for our residents. And I think replicating the internal success we've had with the office-based cohort of staff is probably a very long-term aspiration.
Yeah. No, it's quite refreshing, especially, as we all are ourselves local authority users, that more and more are approaching that channel shift and I suppose have created that omni-channel experience for its citizens. What I'd like to move on to is obviously a topic that you can't help but avoid right now, which is AI. And when it comes to AI, respondents of our survey are hugely in favour of using that type of technology to improve communications, especially when it comes to citizen communications. So going beyond, I suppose, the chatbots on the website and or things like that. But I suppose, what are the primary factors contributing to the hesitation in adopting AI solutions in communications in local government? And perhaps is there a strategy that organisations can take to implement to overcome these types of barriers?
I think it's fair to say that kind of resident expectations in regard to our services and the kind of quantity of traffic going through our services continues to increase day to day. Our budgets get smaller and smaller, and it seems to me that AI is an obvious solution to addressing some of those demands. One of the concerns that I have, and I fully support AI and the deployment of AI, is that you can often sit with suppliers, you can be told your product to do this, that and the other, and then when it comes to the implementation, it's often quite a different story or slightly more challenging at times. So there is something, I think, about the sector getting a greater understanding of the opportunities AI presents. I've been a little bit braver in that space at times, and we kind of see this whole ethical debate at the moment around the use of AI as well, don't we? That's going on, and we're going to be looking at some kind of principles that sit within our information governance framework around the use of AI within our partnership. But certainly for services like revenues and benefits, customer contact, there are huge opportunities, I think, to deploy AI. I've not got the answers in regard to them, but I just kind of recognise from conversations with suppliers, there's a lot of tech out there that can help us meet those customer demands and probably drive some efficiencies and service improvements for us. So we're going to be looking in the next year or so to be testing some AI type stuff out within our revenues and benefits service, all being well. And that's likely to be one of the transformational projects that we bring forward. We're not even in the space yet across our partnership of having chatbots in place on our website. That is something we're looking to do as well. So we're very much moving into that space. And I think if you can almost do a proof of concept somewhere to demonstrate to your politicians, your senior leaders, that actually it can deliver results for the organisation, you're going to get more buy-in. Yeah. And that's part of the journey that we'll be taking our politicians on over the next couple of years as we start to kind of embed it within some of our services. Yeah.
So one of the things that came up in the survey, it was quite interesting, was analytics. And without analytics, organisations are unable to assess what's working. So understanding the effectiveness of communication channels, like we've discussed, provides the foundations for driving improvement. Organisations that miss this essential stage are unable to take full advantage then of the solutions that they then employ. So how do public sector organisations such as local authorities currently utilise data analytics and reporting to improve communication performance and experiences? What have you found in terms of your customer success in the change and transformation that you've gone through?
Yeah, I mean, we regularly look at the data that we now hold. I think, again, RingCentral has been a game changer for us in this space because our previous telephony system provided very limited reporting for us in terms of kind of customer interactions and general kind of customer engagement with us. So what we have been doing since we've deployed the platform is start doing regular reporting, actually looking in detail at what that rich data's telling us. And it's now enabling us to take some quite intelligent business decisions that we probably wouldn't have been able to take previously, because we can understand the demand better, where it's coming from, and what's driving that demand. And that's now starting to shape for us our digital transformation journey. So where we can see the demand's really high for a particular service, it gives us the ability to start prioritizing some of that digital stuff that we probably wouldn't have been able to do previously. I think we are guilty probably a little bit in the sector of not using data as well as we could do at times. So quite often we hold lots of really good data in our organisation, but it's not particularly accessible. So that's one of the challenges here for us as a partnership. How do we kind of identify all the data that we hold and start making it accessible to inform business decisions? And again, we get regular reporting from the websites now. We get regular reporting from some of our own internal products as well, that just enable us to be a bit smarter in the way that we're doing stuff. And I think part of it as well is upskilling the workforce and being able to interpret and analyse data. So it's all right having the data, but actually, how do you then go about understanding that data and drawing conclusions? And again, that's part of the journey that we're on here. But there's some great examples of where councils have been using some really clever technology. And I think about Barnum and Dagenham as an example there, whereby they're almost predicting and averting demand because of it. And you see examples of where they're saving hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds in some really important services that impact people's lives day to day, just through better use of data, understanding where issues are going to arise and kind of getting in there and addressing it before it becomes an issue.
Yeah, I think those dashboards are really important, being able to have the reporting to measure success. But I think it's also crucial to celebrate when you are successful in customer interactions, celebrating that with your councillors and elected members, your employees, so that it allows you to build further on and continue to deliver change. Have you found that within the council?
I have, yeah. I mean, if you can build a case, it's like anything with technology. Quite often, when you're deploying technology, it does come at a cost, quite a considerable capital or revenue cost at times.
Yeah.
But if you can demonstrate through the business case, through previous experiences, that actually you've got a good track record of deploying it, you've got a good track record of delivering efficiency, you've got a good track record of service improvement on the back of it, you're more likely to get support for that case. So in my experience, kind of that data and being able to present it to members as part of the decision making around stuff is really, really important. And I think on the whole, across our partnership, we do look at very much data-led decisions. Yeah. So kind of having it at our fingertips from the website, from whatever platform, from whatever other sources we so choose is just so important to us.
James, that's all we've got time for today, but it's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much for talking to me.
Thank you so much for your time.